Hello, everyone. I'm recording this video to talk about the different strategies for migrating the vulnerability check approval rules into scan result policy approval rules. Um, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on just building up a context for this. Just as a quick refresh, under project settings general, there is the merge request approvals. This is on a project level. And here we are talking about the vulnerability check that's going to be considered as part of the merge request approval rules. It's going to take consideration the vulnerabilities, severities, report types, and a couple of other things. And this feature is going to be deprecated. And what we want to do is that we want to migrate the existing vulnerability check rules into the scan result policies. And also for context, I'm going to show here the scan. This is the policy list page. And here there is two different scan result policies. And those policies I can show here in EML format. This one has two rules, and this other one has also two rules. So those rules are going to be converted after synchronization job has run. It might take like 10 minutes if this repository is updated on the very beginning of the window. It's going to take 10 minutes in order to have the new approval project rules based on this scan result policies. And if we go on the Rails console here, I can show the vulnerability check rule. One important field here is report type. So for vulnerability approval rules, report type is vulnerability. And I might have scan finding rules here. And this is the scan result policies. For scan result policies, the report type is going to be scan finding. And also it might be interesting to show the relationship between the orchestration project with the main project that's using the orchestration project, and also the how it can have how the scan result policies are linked up. So here that's the EML hash version of the EML coming from the repository that's going to be used to generate the scan result policy approval rules. There are two approaches here. One approach that was initially considered is, let me just show you here the owners, just for the sake of adding a little bit of the context here. See here, like the initial idea was to use one of the team owners, the user, to do the necessary operations in order to convert one rule to another rule. The problem here was we don't want to have to perform actions for users. It might look random for the user, or it might be something that is not desirable, as it's going to be part of the auditing and lots of other logs. So one option was to use the migration bot. Here, yeah. The migration bot was used in the past. There is an example here in our documentation. The migration bot is used for this kind of operations that we want to perform actions without having to use the user, some other user. And so if we go here to this first migration here, it's going to follow exactly the same. The chunk of work is going to be very similar to the other migration. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this one, and the other one we basically just go throughout the difference, going through the differences. So these initial files here, these are changes that's going to be required to provide the required access for the migration bot. So basically we have to increase the privileges of the migration bot in order to be able to perform all necessary operations to have this conversion going. There's a couple of on a group level, user namespace level, project level. And then we have a job. We're going to have a new job that it's going to be called for each vulnerability rule. Sorry, for each approval rule that's, or the report type vulnerability. And we want to call this worker or job for each. And these workers that's going to perform the necessary migration. So the necessary conversion. The migration here, it's going to be called for each, and then it's going to be a async job. So we can go to the main, and this just before that, this right now it's a post migrate job. It's a post migrate, post deploy migration. We might have to consider maybe a background migration, but for now, let's keep it like this. So then we have the discussion going. So here we have the main worker. And we have the approval rule ID. So we query the approval rule. We check if it's vulnerability type. If it's not, we just return. And then we have to have the project. And then on line 25th here, we have the use of a migration bot. And we set the current user as migration bot. And this current user, once again, that's going to be the user that's going to be the author of all the operations here. First step is to check if there is a orchestration project already or not. If there is no orchestration policy, we just create one. And then after that, we need to commit a version of the approval rule that's going to be converted into almost like a YAML version that's going to be committed. And here we are committing to the main branch. Prior to this, there was a tentative to create another branch and then have a creation of one MR and then merging the MR. But as we have all these operations kind of in a linear fashion, the merging of the MR was failing for different reasons. So then in this code here, it's committing to the main branch. It shouldn't be a big deal, especially because most of the time we're going to be creating a new orchestration project. So then if we are creating the project itself, it shouldn't be a big deal to also have the initial commit, have access to have the initial commit. And then after that, on line 41 here, we update the report type. Here we can do that because we already have we have populated the scan result policy. So if the migration job runs, it's going to keep things in sync. But if we just go ahead and we don't create the project or we don't update the policy ML file, then if we just update the report type, what's going to happen is that whenever there is a job running for the scan policy, it's going to basically delete the approval rule, and there's going to be no approval rule because there's no data there related to it. So basically, that's it for this path. Everything is based on the user migration bot. And let me just see if I'm forgetting something here. No, I'm not forgetting anything here. And then let's go to the next step, the next approach. So in this approach here, we still use the migration bot, but it requires way less permissions. The reason for that is that instead of performing all the actions here with the migration bot, what we do is that we use the migration bot to create a resource token on a group level. And then the resource token, as soon as you create a resource token on a group level, there is a user created for this. We have some docs on this. So this page, for example, shows the group access token. And if you go down here, there is a brief mentioning of the bot user for groups. And so what happens is that as soon as you create a access token, you get a user that's a bot. And then with this user, we perform all the operations, same operations that we did in the last strategy. We create the project service, we create the orchestration project. And again, although the name of the service here is project create, it not just create, it also assigns. That's something important to keep in mind. And after creating the project, in case it doesn't exist, we commit in a very similar way to the previous one. We commit to the main branch, and we update the approval rule. But the difference here is that at the end of this sequence, we need to revoke the access token. That's going to also include the removal of the user bot. The advantage of the user bot is that the user bot doesn't count as the license seat for the project or the user. So then we don't need to, the user doesn't need to be worried about if there's going to be increase on the license seat or things like this. So basically we're not affecting, we're not causing disruption in terms of billing and things like this. So yeah, so then here we have two approaches. One approach is doing everything with the migration bot and providing lots of new privileges to the migration bot. The other one is using the migration bot to basically create the access token and removing the access token, and all the other operations are performed by the the user bot that it's generated as we create the access token. And I think that's it. I hope it doesn't, this video is not that long, and I hope that it's helpful to understand these two different approaches. And thanks for watching.